Hi everybody, welcome to my Zone of the Enders Easy Run, a 2037 done on Xbox Series X HD version. Let us begin with this run. So this is my last run for my easy improvements. This will be my 6th improvement on the world record, a 9-second improvement over my previous run. There's a couple of new strats shown in this run, some really good parts and some not so good parts. Ultimately, I think this run could probably end up going to easily a 22x with a really clean run. Sub 20 is going to be kind of hard though. So one thing I realize is with this second one, if it flies close enough, it's worth going for the burst into the dash stab, that mummy head. Throw Viola and do 1 slash. You don't want to do more than 1 slash, otherwise you're going to stun Viola and you want her to fly away as soon as possible. Now that we have the monitor, we're going to do our second tutorial here and immediately turn behind ourselves and then burst shot immediately. A lot of this run is just doing these burst shots well and pacing them out correctly. And you know you're pacing them out based off of Jehuti's right hand disappearing behind the shoulder. Let's sneak in to get the global command right here, avoiding the group nearby. And we'll head into the first boss fight of the game, Tempest, which is really not that hard. Even on very hard, this fight isn't that difficult. If you're wondering what the differences between the difficulties are, on easy, we have enemies have less sight range. They go into battle at a closer range than on the higher difficulties, where they are more perceptive, and you take more damage and the enemies also take more damage. Enemies also have higher levels for themselves, which means they tend to have better AI and take more damage. We do 2 burst shots right here, and then do a backwards dash shot on the final raptor there. It's a very, very clean execution of the Antilia info fight. Start of this run really isn't too bad. I'd say the next stage is really where the rubber meets the road. Thankfully, we have a bottleneck with this strategy, so it's not too demanding. On the higher difficulties, there is no bottleneck, really. So I'm trying to do these burst shots into the porters here. Get a nice bank shot on both of those porters. Come up here and try to destroy that traffic signal. That way, later on, we may have better RNG. And then do another bank shot there. So I try to pay attention to the raptors on the right as my visual cue to know when I can start flying in to get the sniper. Now we're heading into city to do the sniping sequence. If you're playing the PS2 version, you can't fire like this, like through the cylinder. This is just some weird oversight with the HD version, which makes this sequence very quick. Now even if we miss a shot or two, it doesn't really matter because we will be picking up a second sniper pack later on as part of the route regardless. We're now starting the EPS sequence where we go and destroy these EPS generators. Part of running this game is just knowing where the cutscenes are and skipping them fast. I use an Xbox Elite controller, which has those little bumpers on the back, and with those you can assign buttons to them. So I assigned a back button to the start button so I can skip cutscenes and go start faster. Pretty good triple Cyclops fight. Goal is just to get close enough to them to hopefully get a multi-swing. In the past, people use burst shots. However, burst shots on Cyclops are very inconsistent. They tend to dodge out of the way, so I don't like using that strategy personally. And here's the triple mummy fight, where we will be using a pretty cool technique, burst switching or burst dancing. Just changing target at the very last second so that we can manipulate the enemy AI into not attacking. And as long as they're flying pretty wide and the lasers don't intersect, this represents a 7-second time save over the optimal approach, or the optimal time on the previous strategy that people used. That fight can really make or break your run. It's one of those walls in terms of whether those enemies agree with you and try not to like fly in between each other. As long as they're flying separate, it works out pretty well, assuming you are pacing out your shots well. I'd say that's probably one of the most testing parts for your ability to use the burst shots. So we're going to be going through a gauntlet here. There is a fight that's going to be a little bit different on this run compared to the last run, but overall it's pretty much the same. I will be trying to mention where there is some potential for time save, because it's getting to be a little bit less obvious if you are not a runner of this game. So now this part, I honestly think maybe if you did a vertical dash up, that might be a little bit faster than just holding triangle to gain height. However, it might not. It's a very tight area. I really don't like moving in that area, so I just do it the easy way. Now, sometimes people wonder if skating is faster or slower than just dashing in the air. It's the same speed, so really all you have to think about is your turning. So here we do a burst shot, and then fly in, throw, and then the mummy slides on the fence, and then we just do a dash stab. That is not the strat, but the fastest strat is pretty inconsistent, and really only saves, I think, about like a half a second, so that's pretty consistent and easy to do, and still relatively quick. Now we head into Town 2 to get the down raptor. This is where taking out that traffic light earlier may help us out in terms of not getting a dialogue here. Sadly, you can't control the other group on the opposite side. That loses about 4 seconds, so that's a time loss. But it's completely random because I can't control the other group. Now here, you need to like skip this cutscene like right as the HUD's coming up. And then here, it's a little bit faster to go for a slash into a burst slash rather than the triple combo. So that's a little time save that can be done to save, I don't know, probably about a second-ish over doing the triple. Or half a second. It's only a little bit of time. But when we're talking about a run that's only about 20 minutes long, you know, all these little things start adding up very quickly. One thing to mention with versions in this game, I sometimes get questions about series versus the like Xbox One. And if you are running on Xbox One, really the most important thing is using an SSD. Otherwise, you're going to be losing time, a little bit of time on hard drive, I'd imagine. But this game already loads so fast that I don't know if there's really that much of a difference between Series and One if they're both running on a SSD. So that's where we pick up our second bit of sniper ammo. That's for the very end of the game. Now picking that up does lose about 4-ish seconds. It's like 4 or 5 seconds, but we make up for it in the end by having the sniper ammo, and you're going to see why it's so valuable at the end of the run. So we're flying in to take out the stealth raptor so we can get that stealth module. We need it. You could come back here later, but it's just more convenient to do it now with the routing. This fight, 2 burst shots can work, but sadly the second burst shot missed. I would say probably the most consistent thing to do is to do a burst shot, shoot to make the raptor block, and then fly in and then do slash, quad slash attack. So that would be my suggestion. And yeah, the second burst shot would take it out immediately, but you really just can't rely on... It's a real crapshoot whether the raptor is going to take that second shot or not, so... Okay, so we are going into the virus sequence. We're about halfway through the run at this point. And we're going to snipe now rather than later. It is better to snipe now. However, this sniping sequence went really poorly for me. I was not aiming quite well, so you see I'm whiffing some shots. A lot of shots. This part was not my best work, but even so, you'll see at the end of the run I make up for it with a really good hub, but I lost well over 5 seconds here, and not for anything other than execution. The auto aim is pretty generous, but you need to make sure that you're not adjusting too much up, or else Jehuti will start shooting upwards. I was pretty upset at the time when I did this. I was like, I don't even know, is this run even worth continuing? But, you know, I try to finish my runs as much as possible, just to see how they go. You never know how the end of this run's gonna go, because a lot of things can change near the end of the run in terms of luck. So even though I screwed up the execution well, it was worth sticking it out. Ultimately, because my goal in this run was to get a 23x, and that's what I got. So City 2, I really don't like this area. It's just a very awkward area, but as I just got trolled by the level 5, you know, usually if you do 2 dash stabs, that will take out a raptor, or that second stab will work. But if the raptor option selects for the burst attack, then it gets iframes and then it fails. And you also take a burst slash to the face, which is never fun. So we get into that position to burst shot that raptor and do 2 burst slashes on that Cyclops. Now ideally you get a repair here, and then you can get into the middle of that group and then burst slash them all. Sadly that didn't happen, and this fight also didn't go that well. We want to throw that raptor into the building or a wall so that we get that bonus damage, and sadly that didn't happen. City, by comparison, was actually okay. It was just bad luck. Going for the grab there really wasn't that wise, so definitely this part of the run we could see like another at least 10 seconds of improvement, ideally. If this part went really well, I honestly would have had like a 22x, so. But sometimes you just get trolled in this game. That's just kind of how it goes. You can go for more consistent strats, and that's what I tend to do. But even then, enemies can throw you for a loop. Alright, now that we have the actual decoy weapon, we can finally go fight Tyrant. So this is a little improvement from Sephiroth Crescent. You don't actually need to decoy for the first laser beam here, which is great. That means we have another decoy for later, and we can tank this no problem. It's the second decoy, or what is now the first decoy, that actually allows us to continue to fight. So once that happens, then you can do the last little bit of damage to enter phase 2. Dash in, hold up left, triangle, and shoot to do damage while you're flying into position. 2 burst shots and you're done. Here I'm just holding R2 or right trigger to fly forward. You don't have to actually adjust and hold a direction if you're already flying in that direction in the overworld. Okay, so do a burst shot, hopefully get both of these fools, but that didn't happen. 2 attacks on that mummy and then a burst spin. Got lucky, did not get a repair drop. Now on the higher difficulty, on normal, if you're doing that, taking the laser hit in Tyrant, you kind of want that, but it's all good. Here, nice little combo on the Mummy. We use Decoy here because it's very effective at distracting the enemies and getting us into a good position to attack them. Decoys are very strong, very overpowered. It's a shame we don't have them earlier in the run. Get in. Now that was a really good position. If I didn't get hit by that raptor, I probably would have gotten like a triple spin, which is really what you want. I wouldn't call this a very great, this is probably a mediocre fight there. Do a decoy high up to make these start flying, and their geysers will miss. If you're fast enough, take them both out pretty quickly. Decoy makes that fight a lot easier. And now we're going to decoy yet again. The really annoying thing about this fight is just accidentally targeting the wrong raptor with the lock-on switch, because they don't fly consistently. So that was a pretty alright mountain. Now, for Nebula, it is faster to do a 6-shot, fly backwards and do a burst shot, but because I screwed that up in my previous run, I decided it's not really worth it, and the time save isn't that significant. At least on easy, it's way more important on normal and very hard, because we do so little damage with our pew shooter. So after that, there's really nothing much to say about Nebula. Burst shot, chaining, timing it out. Those little shots there aren't for anything in particular. It's just to show that I have some time to spare. Now you can take this laser if you have enough HP, but if you're doing the higher difficulties, it's not a good idea. Pretty easy fight. Now we're going into Viola. Over time, I've gotten more used to this fight. I found a pretty good start for this fight. Sadly, it failed. The fastest way to do this fight is to open with a dash shot into a burst shot. That's the fastest way to open this fight, but it requires Nate to actually agree with it, because sometimes she just wants to fly out of the way. Now there's two ways to look at the timing for this. Either you just sort of like count it out in your head, you look at the animation of Jehuti's right arm returning behind his chest, or you look at Nate. It's kind of hard to look at Nate. I stopped doing that because it's really awkward to actually see what Nate is doing during this fight because you're in the way. So I would suggest looking more at Jehuti, or just sort of thinking about the time in your head. Okay, so this is easily the best hub I've ever done on easy, and that's why this run was as good as it was. Now this part wasn't that great, but you'll see very soon why things went so well for me, because I'm going to be able to take out the enemies pretty easily. That almost went really poorly. The lasers almost blocked my shot, but I did a lot of damage on that mummy, so I could easily take it out without much time to spare. Going in, dropping the decoys to distract these raptors, do a triple into a burst slash, and they're already dead. Usually I can't even manage that, so to be able to get that done that quickly is really good. To the point where now I'm literally just waiting. That's how fast I managed to do this, and this is also the power of the sniper rifle, that we can do that as fast as we can because we don't have to go anywhere near the bombs. That's why picking up that ammo is so useful. You can dodge these shots if you just time a dash out of the way properly. This was also a very good Viola. Got her right on the wall, chaining my attacks well. I just don't want her sliding too far away, that's why I'm adjusting. And that's it. Just have a minute and a second-ish of waiting. This run was saved by my endgame. If you just watch the middle of this run, you'd be like, this is record? And yeah, well, that's why it's always worth not giving into despair. As long as you don't die and nothing really atrocious happens, you should always just try to see what you can pull off with a run. And this run still isn't so optimized that... Excuse me. This run isn't so optimized that we can't manage runs with mistakes. But at a certain point, this run can be so optimized that something as little as the getting that extra RNG dialogue when you pick up the Raptor could ruin a run. Thankfully, I'm not at that point, and this is where I'm going to leave this run off at a 2037, 2040 IGT. Nice. Very nice.